Hi, I'm Linz. Welcome to Becoming Everwell, a channel where we talk about the ongoing journey of becoming. In today's life learning episode for Midlife You, we are talking about when you're frustrated by what you're meant to learn. I make sense of life by writing about real everyday stuff that makes us who we are. Some of these snapshots are fun, some are more serious. Maybe they'll open up something in you too. Let's grow. For one of my college summer jobs, I found myself in a nightmarish babysitting gig. The kids, 2 and 4-year-old boys, weren't the problem. I struggled with the mom. Let's call her Ellen. Zero boundaries. She tried to befriend me in awkward and illegal ways. She misled me about the job's expectations entirely. I realized quickly that I didn't like, respect, or trust her. I lasted for 3 long weeks before I quit and got fired in back-to-back sentences. I kid not. It went like this. This isn't going to work out. The other one said, yeah, this isn't going to work out. Although the split relieved me beyond measure, I felt deeply uncomfortable about the fallout. I'm a recovering people pleaser, so at the time I adopted some heavy emotions, a concoction of embarrassment, shame, and disappointment. We lived in the same community. I'd initially met her through my mom's friend, and it tortured me to imagine how she might be manipulating the truth and misrepresenting me to others. I'd certainly never been fired before, but also I'd only ever been praised for my efforts up until then. Before Ellen, I'd considered myself to be a decent catch for any potential employer, but my friction with Ellen left me feeling inadequate. I couldn't help but wonder if I'd misjudged my worth. Maybe I was the problem. Despite my newfound insecurities, I needed another job for the 2 remaining months of summer, so I jumped at the opportunity to babysit for a different local mom with 3 slightly older kids, Matthew, Emily, and Olivia. I liked their free-spirited, good-natured mum, and she must have liked me too because I got hired. Our time together lives in my memory as fun-loving, positive, and breezy. And although that job proved to me my competency as a babysitter, the dissonant open end from the first job's failure still hung around and haunted me. Flash forward about 5 years, I'm maybe 24 and home for the weekend. I treat myself to a manicure at the local nail salon, and while choosing a polish color, I bump into Emily, one of the kids from the second family summers before, who's with her friend and now in 8th grade. We hadn't laid eyes on each other in ages, and we greet each other with total enthusiasm, sharing hugs and brief but heartfelt updates. She goes on to introduce me to her friend as the best babysitter ever, which warms me. After our little love fest, I look up, and sitting on a nearby sofa just feet away is Ellen, totally attentive to our interaction. Could it be, is my private thought in the time standing still moment when Ellen and I lock eyes. Is it possible that Ellen, whom I'd mentally conjured into a monster, had really just heard me being described by a teenager, no less, as the best babysitter ever? I mean, I couldn't have scripted a better redemption. Ellen smiles at me, initiates some forced pleasantries, and tries to ride the love fest wave by acting like we have some sort of good personal connection too. I maintain polite composure despite my inner vitriol, and just allow my glorious inner gloat to wash over me as I imagine throwing these words at her. There's the proof, lady. I am not the problem. I could unpack a lot from this story about my young adult self, but I bring it up to tell you about why it's one of the reasons that I believe in circles, and why I hope you too will start believing in circles. Stay with me. I've had a number of poignant experiences like this Ellen situation that have taken me on a loop, a full circle ride to a place of relevant life learning for the betterment of my inner self. In my self-school online course, I refer to this as the life circle theory. It's not a research-backed theory, but rather a helpful framework that I created because I noticed it at play in my own life, ever since I started paying attention to it more than 20 years ago. In essence, the theory is about seeing life's circumstances as circles. And for me, it's an effective tool in how I cope with and understand the aspects of my life that are unresolved, open-ended, and unclear. I'll explain. Imagine that in your hand is a spool of ribbon. Then imagine that you're holding on to the loose end of the spool's ribbon. Imagine that while holding the loose ribbon's end, you toss the spool forward into an upward arc that defies the laws of physics and essentially creates the very beginning of a circle. Then imagine the spool of ribbon has a boomerang's trajectory, meaning by tossing the spool of ribbon out in front of you, the spool will unfurl its ribbon and fly upwards in a circle, then descend and come back around underneath and meet you back in your hand. This is a little hard to do because I'm holding my notebook, but I hope you can imagine that circle in front of you and then freeze frame that visual. Pause the action. There you'd be with this circle of ribbon before you. Can you imagine that? Can you see that? Okay. Consider that visual of the ribbon unfurling into a circle to be a visual representation of a single, fully understood experience. For a long time, my experience with Ellen was unresolved. I quit/got fired. I had no closure. I could not find meaning in the experience. For years, the experience existed somewhere in that circle of ribbon, somewhere out there. But the experience had not yet swung back around, boomerang style, so that I could make sense of it until it did. When our paths intersected at that nail salon, I confronted the clash of Emily's perspective and Ellen's perspective, which forced me to ask myself, what's true? What's your perspective on yourself? I realized that for 5 years, I'd been giving Ellen enormous power when it came to my self-worth. The moment shook me awake and created such clarity for me. I'd been in Ellen's home for 3 weeks. I experienced what I experienced. I knew that I'd maintained my professionalism and integrity throughout those 3 weeks, full stop. This nail salon moment forced me to acknowledge that not only can I trust myself as a childcare provider, but also that I'm the one who gets to determine my self-worth. And that bit of life learning has colored my whole life since. I couldn't possibly quantify the extent of it. So back to the life circle theory. That Ellen experience is one of my life experiences, one of many. And now when I think about the experiences of my life that carry unknown meaning for me, I imagine that each one of those experiences is its own ribbon unfurling from me. Can you imagine that for yourself too? All your life experiences, each represented by an individual ribbon, blooming outwards from your body. All those life experiences, all happening at once. And each of those ribbons, each of those experiences is somewhere on the boomerang's path of circling away from you, then back to you. It's not until the ribbon comes back in some totally unpredictable way that the inherent life learning from that experience can be understood. So that's the life circle theory, according to me. And I encourage you to welcome this theory into your own life too, as you observe and try to learn from your life. Why? Because lots of what we go through doesn't make sense. And sometimes we get stuck where we can't make meaning. And being stuck is a hard place to be. And I want to add one crucial piece to this theory. I believe that there are some experiences that will not find their way back to us, at least not in this lifetime. Humans endure crippling heartache, inexplicable and untimely loss, and devastating circumstances. Much of it simply does not make sense. There's no framework that makes such loss okay, acceptable, or explainable. Some experiences do not happen for a reason. And simply put, we'd prefer not to endure those horrors. And we are living, breathing humans. If you desire to grow forward and stronger and healthier and with more meaning by giving each experience of your life its own circle to live in, the one worst experience of your life does not get to rule over all of the other experiences. When we're enduring something troubling, by giving it a single ribbon in our mind's eye, we can understand that its path is somewhere out there on its own circular trajectory. And with time, it will push forward on that circle's path. And we can intentionally give that ribbon space to move forward in its life circle without having to be consumed by its existence. By separating each experience from the others, we will likely end up better supporting our overall wellness as we navigate life's complexities. As you know, you are one person with many parts. You have one life with many experiences. With all of those ribbons unfurling, the steady center is you. Your life is at the heart of all of your experiences, and ultimately, the way you make sense of your lived experiences is what matters. My hope is that this theory might help you better organize and digest some discomforts in your life so that no one experience consumes your mind space. The slightest shifts sometimes make the biggest difference. Sending you love. Let's keep growing. I'm Lindsay Hurdy. You can learn all about what I do and offer on my website, lindsayhurdy.com, or you can find all of my writing, which is where these essays that I read on YouTube begin, on my Substack, lindsayhurdy.substack.com. That's my favorite place to connect, and I hope you'll find me there. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for being here. Until next time. Be sure to like and subscribe and click that bell to get alerts for new posts. I'd be ever grateful.